My top 3 tips for anyone thinking of applying to the 3-minute thesis are: firstly, get your story straight, make sure that it flows and you know exactly what you want to say. Secondly, practice so that you feel confident and you know that story inside and out. And thirdly, try it out on someone who isn't from your background, who doesn't know your area very well, so that you can make sure that your story really comes across clearly.
Make sure you practice, make sure you prepare, make sure you plan for it, and then get a lot of feedback to work on your presentation.
As well as the graduate school drop-ins and workshops, there are also videos available that I found really useful. So I was able to watch previous presentations, and I thought that was really helpful when I was actually preparing my own presentation.
I've watched videos of live competitions because when it comes to tips, it's all good to know about them, but I wanted to see how people really performed on that day. So I watched a lot of videos of people doing the 3-minute thesis, and that helped me a lot to see how they performed, what kind of questions they were trying to address in their competition.
Yeah, and also the slide as well, because you only have one slide. So I wanted to see exactly what kind of designs and layout people were using to actually get that message across in a concise way.
I watched videos about actors, the exercise they do before acting, and it was very helpful in terms of voice control and how you stand in front of the audience, and how sometimes you pretend to be confident even if you're not, how to constrain the stress and to show to the audience that you're actually very cool with it, and you're just talking, it's like you're talking to friends or something. So that was really helpful.
Yeah, voice control was a big factor for me as well. So I worked on when I was going to put stresses on different words, and when I was going to make it into a question, and also how quickly or slowly I was going to present, which actually worked out differently in the final presentation, because I ended up talking slower than I practiced. So I saw the timer coming and thought, but no, otherwise I would have just spoken really quickly and probably not been as expressive as I tried to be in the presentation. So that was a big factor for me.
For my case, I went to the workshop on presentation skills in graduate school, and it was super helpful because the key was breathing, how to breathe well, to distress yourself. And I practiced a lot of breathing, and in the day of the presentation, this is what I did. I took a deep breath, and then I started speaking non-stop for 3 minutes.
Yeah, for me, practice is everything. So I feel a lot more confident if I know that I've practiced it over and over again, so I get a good idea of how quickly I actually speak, and when I need to take a breath and when I need to pause. So for me, just feeling confident meant having practiced it a lot and feeling like I know it inside out. I think supervisors are really helpful because, especially when designing the slide, because they were able to make sure that the science was in there and actually the scientific message. But then my husband is completely, not a scientist, so he was useful to feedback on how the story came across, and if it was understandable to someone who isn't in that area.
One thing that I did that was really helpful was to record myself, because I could then watch and see what works and what doesn't work, to change it and to really perfect and better my presentation.
Yeah, I think that's a really good technique for, especially if you're nervous, because then you can practice at home where you feel a bit more comfortable, a bit more relaxed, and then when you actually come to doing a presentation in a new space, then I think you'll feel a lot more confident having done that. So I really like it when people use this idea of a story for their presentations. That's definitely something that I've adopted, because then I think it's just a lot easier for the audience to follow. And I also like it when people engage with the audience and maybe asking questions, or dropping in some kind of popular culture references that everyone can understand, because that immediately drags you back in, and you're more interested in following the rest of the presentation.